So, I believe in you. Where did this all start?
Honestly, man, it's been a journey, dude. We're like 7 years in at this point. Honestly, I think, it was almost like a part of even other businesses that I started before this, to be honest. Even in like some of the packaging, it's on the front of it, literally says, "We believe in you." I think the best place to like start this story really is like college. I went to college to play football, ended up getting hurt, so I dropped out, went back and worked building houses back on the farm with my dad, living in May, Texas. Did that for a little while. It was cool because I was getting to work with my dad, but I definitely always knew that I was like made for something else. It's just whenever football ended, I really didn't know like what that looked like for me anymore because that was like my whole identity. I knew it wasn't building houses and living in May, Texas, so I decided to go back to school again to the same place after already dropping out once. There was a really pretty girl involved too, so I think that played a role in me deciding to leave, go back, but without football. So kind of the first time I was in like a community, like in a school, like in a setting where I didn't have an identity outside of like football anymore. Like I was always just known as like football. So it was really like a time where I had to like figure out who I really wanted to be and like what my life was gonna look like. I had always been passionate about like design and like clothes and fashion for some reason. And I decided I was gonna start a clothing company. Me and my friends had like made our own clothes in like middle school and like early high school and stuff before, mainly just because we didn't want to look like anybody else. So we made some clothes that nobody else could have. So I think that's kind of like where it started. And I just like design, and obviously that's apparent now in all the things that I do. But I started a clothing company, and I didn't just want it to be about clothing. I wanted it to have purpose. The slogan was more than fabric. And so the goal is for all of our clothing to have purpose. The company's called Vision, and really what Vision stood for was just like that everybody's definition of success was different, and what makes them happy was different. Like what they should spend all their time doing is different. And I was just really, really passionate about people being happy. I grew up and see people, eating cereal on a Saturday or Sunday morning. The mood was different than eating cereal on a Monday morning. And I didn't understand that as a kid. And so I just always attributed it to like, well, you have sucky jobs or your job you don't like, you need to do something else. And so really as I was like in my own journey of like talking to myself too, of like trying to figure out who I wanted to be, what I wanted to be. And so I started this company that was just all about like finding your definition of success, defining your version of success and happiness, so that people aren't just doing what they're supposed to do and like following tradition and like go to school, go to college, get a wife, build a house with a white fence, that kind of thing. That was really what Vision was about. And it was a number of different things, but ultimately my goal is to help people define their version of success and happiness. Made some really amazing clothes, worked with some really awesome people, sold stuff all over the country, around the world, did some really cool events, and it was amazing. But in the midst of it, the mission was always bigger than the clothing. And so because of that, different schools and different places would like ask me to come and speak and like talk about what Vision was. And I always knew I wanted to speak on stages, but I never knew how or why I would or why anybody would ever ask me or if I would be brave enough to do it. But I used to have a shower curtain that was curved like this, and I would stand in my shower and imagine that was like a crowd full of people, and I would just like talk and act like I was talking to a room full of people. And so when the first person asked me if I would speak at their school, I said yes. So it scared the hell out of me, but I knew it was like something for some reason I was drawn to and like wanted to do. I said yes. Then I got asked again and again, and people started to see videos of it, so people thought that was like what I did. It was like, really, I sell clothes that are purposeful. But then people just kept asking me to speak. I don't know, maybe I'd spoke at like 8 or 9 schools in different places by this time. Not very many, but I finally felt like I kind of knew what I was doing. I got asked to speak at this middle school in Texas. Wrote the whole speech out, was like ready to rock and roll. And this was at a time when there was like some really, really bad floods like in Houston. I'm probably like, I don't know, I'm like 20 years old, 21 maybe. And me and Austin, my buddy, we were down there with some friends who had boats and trucks and helping families like out of their house and all these floods and stuff that were going through Houston, and we were helping. Well, I had that speech that was planned for the next day. The principal of the school calls me. She's like, "Hey, Braxton, I just want to let you know, like, we're so excited for you to be coming here tomorrow." She's like, "But I just want to let you know, like, what some of these kids are going through, before you show up, so you know who you're talking to." And I'm 20, 21 years old. I'm like, "Cool, yes, ma'am, perfect, I'm here, let me know." And she tells me all these stories and all these things about these kids, and she lists off some pretty like horrendous and like terrible situations that these kids have been through, that they're going through currently, and just like what their situation in life is. And I kind of end the call the same way, and I'm like, "Yes, ma'am, like I'll be there tomorrow, like thank you so much for telling me." And I hang up, and immediately I go tell Austin, we're like sitting in the truck. I just pulled a deer out of the water, and it's crazy in Houston. There's the governor of Texas was there with security all around his vehicle. We're like pulling people out of their houses and putting them in boats. SWAT flying by on like airboats. I said, I just pulled a freaking baby deer out of the water and got back to the truck and got this call. Austin was sitting with me. I hung up and I looked at him. I was like, dude, I wrote the wrong speech. Like, I have to be there tomorrow. And I wrote the wrong speech. It was like, I don't know, like 12, 1,500 kids. Like, it's a decent amount of kids. And he was like not going to be able to really like go with me and a bunch of different stuff. So we're pretty far away from where we live. But I told him, I was like, dude, you got to drive us home. Like, I got to write a new speech. So I'm in this terrible little red notebook and I'm writing everything out of my head that I can. And the premise of it comes out to like believe, chase, achieve. Pretty much I talk about like how you have to believe in yourself, and once you have that belief and belief from others, you have to harness that and like be willing to like chase that vision, chase that thing. Like, that's how you're going to achieve it. I wanted to know that not only do you have to believe in yourself, but I wanted to know that somebody else believed in them. And so a lot of my speech talked about that I believe in them, their teachers believe in them, they have people in their lives that believe in them. But because I had a clothing company at the time, I had like a label printer where I was able to print out these stickers that said, I believe in you. I decided I was going to take these stickers for all the kids that say, I believe in you on them. When they walked in, the staff handed out the stickers to all the kids. You know, I didn't really tell them about it until towards the end of my talk. And at the end, I told them, I was like, hey, that sticker that I gave to you guys, you know, is not yours. You can trade it with the person next to you. You can go home, give it to your mom, your dad, your brother, your uncle, your cousin, your grandparents, your neighbor, the mailman. But go like take this message from today that I gave to you and go like share that with somebody else. The speech ended really well. Kids came up to me, we took pictures. I talked to some of them. It was really, really cool. Even like some of the staff came up to me. It was awesome, and they took to it pretty well. But I also walked around with like a microphone and like this notebook, like trying to turn pages with the mic. I had it memorized before, but I wrote a new one, so I had to like turn pages with this microphone in my hand. You know, a few days later, the principal called me back and she's like, Braxton, these kids are like being nicer to each other in the hallways, to their teachers. You know, we have people like from our community that are telling us stories about it. Like, these kids are like running around and like using these ugly little stickers that I gave them, you know. I like envisioned it going that way, but I didn't know if it would or not. As soon as she told me that, it just clicked. I was like, this needs to be done like in every school, not just middle schools, but high schools. And I was like, not just in schools, but just all kids. It's like not just kids, but just people. And it kind of like, I was like, man, like people need this. And then I realized, I was like, it can't be on a shitty sticker. It's got to be on something cooler. And at the time, I had these bracelets for vision called Team Vision, and I put purpose behind like everything. And those were really popular. And I was like, man, what if just the bracelet said, I believe in you? And initially, I thought it was going to be with vision. Like the stickers have a vision logo on them. And I was like, man, I don't think it can be vision. Like, it's got to be its own thing. I was like, and then it can't be this silicone band. It's got to be like a cool band. And so it just like kept growing and growing. And then as it was happening and I'm hearing these stories and stuff with the stickers and everything, I was like, well, how are we going to be able to document all these stories when it does what I know it's going to do? What are we going to have, like a hashtag? We can't have a freaking hashtag, you know. And I was like, well, maybe we have a website. And I didn't like any of the things. And I was like, man, it's got to be something cooler. And I just started like researching some different technologies and stuff with like apps and phones. I was like trying to figure out something like technology-wise, like how we could do it. Came across like near field communication, how people were getting into events, and it checked in individuals, people into the events. And I was like, what if our bracelets had this own individual ID and this code? And went into a long term of like trying to figure out how to make something cool out of it and like fit this chip into the bracelet. And it was this whole thing. But finally we got it, you know, and you've seen the V1 versions of them. And they're not near as robust or readable or anything else. But we put it together and it was awesome. And I launched and it went really well. We sold stuff all over the US, like 11 different countries. It went really amazing. Ultimately, long story short, we had some of the most incredible stories from all over the world happening, and I knew this needed to be done correctly. And I knew I needed this app. I had the technology, but I didn't have the app, and it was so expensive. I had companies trying to buy it from me, all these different things, but ultimately, you know, I was so focused on impact, I wasn't focused on income. And then my lack of income directly impacted my lack of impact, enough to where I literally decided that I needed to pause the company and focus on learning how to become a businessman and know how to make money and know what systems need to be in place, and how to have a team and all these things. Really, man, that's what I did, is I had to put this company on pause, which is hard to do when you have something that's obviously moving people in a positive way, but we had stories of people not taking their own life. And I had, because of a little piece of freaking plastic. But I had to put that on pause because I needed to go learn the things I needed to learn and make the money I needed to make to do this correctly. That's what I've been doing this whole time. And, now fast forward 4 or 5 years, I've learned a lot in business, started and scaled some other businesses, learned all the things that I need to learn, built an incredible team, internal and external, and now we have the app. I have 2 core partners to the business who've helped me build it for the last 2 years. And we just recently brought on 2 strategic partners, one as an investor, and got an incredible app team, an awesome app, really awesome bracelets that are way better. And now, as you know, we're about to launch in a couple months.